I never believed in mother's intuition until the night I woke up and knew something was wrong. It wasn't a sound that pulled me from sleep. It wasn't my baby crying or a door creaking or any of the normal triggers that had trained me to wake at the slightest disturbance since becoming a mother. It was something deeper, more primal, a feeling that settled in my chest like a stone, heavy and undeniable. Something in my house was not right. I lay there in the darkness, listening. My husband, Tom, breathed steadily beside me, one arm thrown across the pillow, completely oblivious. Down the hall, silence. The baby monitor on my nightstand glowed its familiar green, the screen black and quiet. Too quiet. I reached for my phone. 3:47 a.m. Oliver should have woken up by now for his feeding. He was only 4 months old, still on a strict schedule that ruled our lives. Every night, like clockwork, he'd cry out around 3:30 and I'd stumble down the hall, bleary-eyed, to feed him. But tonight, nothing. I should have been relieved. Every parenting book, every well-meaning friend had told me to cherish the nights when the baby slept through. Sleep when the baby sleeps, they said, as if that were some kind of revolutionary advice. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. I slipped out of bed, my bare feet silent on the hardwood floor. The house was cold. We always kept it cool at night. And I pulled my robe tighter as I moved down the hallway. My mother-in-law's door was closed. She'd been staying with us for 3 weeks now, ever since she'd mentioned that her house was being renovated. Just a few days, she'd said, with that apologetic smile. Just until they finished the kitchen. That was 3 weeks ago. I passed her door and continued to Oliver's nursery. The door was slightly ajar, which was strange, because I always kept it open. Always, so I could hear him if he needed me. I pushed it open slowly, my heart starting to pound. Oliver was in his crib, sleeping peacefully, his little chest rising and falling in the blue glow of his nightlight. His blanket was tucked around him differently than how I'd left it, more loosely, folded down instead of up. And his stuffed elephant, the one that always sat in the corner of the crib, was now beside his head. I stood there, staring, trying to make sense of it. Had I arranged things differently before bed? Was I so exhausted that I couldn't remember? I checked the baby monitor mounted on the wall. The little red light that usually blinked to show that it was recording was dark, off. I pressed the power button. Nothing. I checked the plug. It was loose in the outlet, barely connected, like someone had bumped it. My stomach tightened. I looked back at Oliver, still sleeping soundly, and felt that stone in my chest grow heavier. Someone in this room had been here. The next morning, I mentioned it to Tom over coffee. The monitor was unplugged, I said, trying to keep my voice casual. Did you go into Oliver's room last night? He looked up from his phone, distracted. What? No. Why? The monitor was off, and his blanket was different. Tom frowned. Different how? Just arranged differently. And the elephant was moved. He took a sip of coffee, already losing interest. Maybe you did it and don't remember. You were pretty tired last night. I don't think so. Babe, you're exhausted. We both are. You probably just... I didn't touch the monitor, I said, more firmly than I intended. Tom held up his hands. Okay, maybe it came loose on its own. Those plugs are pretty old. His mother appeared in the doorway then, already dressed for the day, her hair perfectly styled. Diane was always put together, always one step ahead, always hovering at the edges of our lives with a smile that never quite reached her eyes. Morning, she said brightly. Is Oliver still sleeping? Yeah, Tom said. Slept through the night, apparently. Diane's smile widened. Oh, that's wonderful. See, he's settling into a routine. You must be so relieved. I watched her carefully. Did you hear him at all last night? Oh, no, she said, moving toward the coffee pot. I sleep like the dead. Always have. Something about the way she said it, too quickly, too smoothly, made my skin prickle. "The baby monitor was unplugged," I said, watching her face. She paused, just for a fraction of a second, then resumed pouring her coffee. "Oh, that's strange. Maybe it's faulty. You should get a new one. Safety first." She turned to face me, her expression open and innocent. "You know, when Tom was a baby, I never used monitors. I just kept the door open and listened. It's more natural that way." "We like the monitor," I said evenly. Of course," she waved her hand dismissively. "Different times, different methods. I'm sure you know what's best for your baby." The way she said, "your baby," like she was reminding herself, not me, sent a chill down my spine. Over the next few days, I started paying attention. Really paying attention. Oliver seemed more tired than usual. Not sick, not fussy, just drained, like he wasn't getting quality sleep. He'd doze off during his daytime naps, but wake up cranky and disoriented. And every morning, small things were different in his room. The mobile above his crib would be turned slightly. His clothes in the drawer would be rearranged. The rocking chair in the corner would be positioned at a different angle. And the baby monitor was off. Every single night. I started plugging it in more firmly, checking it twice before bed. But every morning, it was off. Tom thought I was being paranoid. He suggested, maybe there is an electrical issue, or the outlet is loose. But I knew better. Someone was turning it off, and I was starting to have a terrible suspicion about who. Diane's renovation had been going on for nearly a month now. Every time Tom asked his mother when she'd be going home, she had a new excuse. They found water damage behind the sink. The tiles came in the wrong color. The contractor says another week, maybe 2. But she never seemed stressed about it, never seemed inconvenienced. If anything, she seemed perfectly content to stay. She'd integrated herself into our routine seamlessly. She cooked dinner most nights, she did laundry, she held Oliver whenever I set him down, always with that same adoring smile. "You go rest," she'd say. "I've got him." At first, I was grateful. I was exhausted, overwhelmed, barely surviving on 3 hours of sleep a night. Having help should have been a blessing. But the way she looked at him like he was hers, not mine, made my skin crawl. And the comments. God, the comments. "He settles so much better when I hold him." "You're tensing up. Babies can sense that, you know." "When Tom was little, I always knew exactly what he needed. It's instinct." She never said anything overtly cruel, nothing Tom would recognize as criticism, but every word felt like a small, calculated cut. One afternoon, Oliver was crying, and I was trying to soothe him while making his bottle. Diane appeared in the doorway, watching with that expression, half pity, half judgment. "Would you like me to take him?" she offered. "I've got it," I said through gritted teeth. "It's just, he sounds so distressed. Sometimes a fresh pair of hands." "I said I've got it." She held up her hands in mock surrender. "Of course, you're his mother." Again, that strange emphasis, like she was reminding herself, or reminding me. Tom came home from work that evening to find me crying in the kitchen. "What happened?" he asked, immediately concerned. "Your mother," I started, then stopped. How could I explain it? That she was too helpful? That she loved our son too much? That every kind gesture felt like a territory grab? What about her? She keeps undermining me, making little comments, like I don't know what I'm doing. Tom sighed, pulling me into a hug. She's just trying to help. You know how she is. She means well. Does she? Because sometimes it feels like she's trying to replace me. Babe, come on. That's not fair.
She's his grandmother. She loves him. I know, I said, even though I wasn't sure I did know. Not anymore. Because love wasn't supposed to feel like this. Love wasn't supposed to feel like drowning. That night, I lay awake long after Tom fell asleep, staring at the baby monitor, watching the red light blink. And I made a decision. If something was happening in that nursery at night, I was going to find out what.
I started keeping notes. Every morning, I'd document what I found. The position of Oliver's blanket, whether the monitor was on or off, how he seemed when he woke up. I kept the notes in my phone, dated and detailed, like evidence I might need later. Day 23. Monitor off, Oliver extra sleepy. Elephant moved to foot of crib. Day 24. Monitor off, rocking chair angled toward door instead of window. Oliver fussy all morning. Day 25. Monitor off, Diane mentioned twice how well Oliver sleeps when someone is watching over him. That last comment had been particularly unsettling. We'd been eating breakfast, Oliver in his high chair, when Diane had said it casually, as if remarking on the weather. "What do you mean, when someone is watching over him?" I'd asked. She'd smiled that infuriating, knowing smile. "Oh, just that babies sleep better when they feel safe. Protected, you know." "He has a monitor. We watch him." "Of course," she said. "But there's a difference between a camera and a presence, isn't there? A mother's presence." The way she'd said mother, loaded, pointed, had made my blood run cold. Tom had missed it entirely, focused on his eggs. The renovation excuses were getting more elaborate. Week 4 turned into week 5. The kitchen was supposedly finished, but now there were issues with the bathroom. Then the electrician found problems with the wiring. Then the inspector flagged something that required a specialist. "These old houses," Diane sighed one evening, shaking her head. "Always something." "Do you have photos?" I asked suddenly. She looked up, startled. "Photos?" "Of the renovation. I'd love to see the progress." Something flickered across her face, too quick to read, before her smile returned. "Oh, I haven't been taking many. It's such a mess. I didn't want to document the chaos." "Maybe we should go see it," Tom suggested. "Get a sense of when it'll actually be done." "Oh, no need," Diane said quickly. "The contractor sends me updates. It's really quite tedious. I wouldn't want to bore you with the details." I caught Tom's eye across the table. For the first time, I saw a flicker of doubt there. Diane's comments about my parenting grew more frequent. "You're holding him too stiffly. Babies need to feel relaxed in your arms. He's crying because he can sense your anxiety. You need to breathe. When I raised Tom, I never let him cry like that. I always knew exactly what he needed." Each comment landed like a small accusation, chipping away at my confidence. I started second-guessing everything. The way I fed him, burped him, changed him, soothed him. And the worst part? Oliver did seem calmer with her. When she held him, he settled almost immediately. When I held him, he squirmed and fussed. It was like he preferred her, and that knowledge felt like a knife in my chest. "Maybe he just likes the way she smells," Tom offered one night when I confessed my fears. "Or her voice. My mom has a really soothing voice." "Or maybe she's doing something when we're not looking?" Tom frowned. "Like what?" "I don't know. Something to make him prefer her." Babe, that's kind of paranoid." "Is it?" I turned to face him. "Your mother has been here for over a month. Her house should be done by now. Don't you find that strange?" "Houses are complicated. And the monitor is off every single night, and Oliver's things are moved, and she makes these comments that sound supportive but feel like criticism." Tom ran a hand through his hair, frustrated. "I think you're exhausted and looking for problems where there aren't any. My mom is helping us. She loves Oliver, that's all." But I knew it wasn't all. I knew something was happening in that nursery, and I was going to prove it. The breaking point came on a Tuesday night. I'd put Oliver down at 7:30, following our usual routine: bath, bottle, lullaby, bed. He'd been fussy, fighting sleep, but eventually his eyes had fluttered closed. I'd checked the monitor 3 times before leaving his room, making absolutely certain it was plugged in securely. At dinner, Diane had been particularly chatty. "He's such a good baby," she said for the 3rd time. "So easy, so sweet. Some grandmothers never get to have this kind of bond." "What kind of bond?" I asked, unable to help myself. "Oh, you know, close, special." She smiled at me over her wine glass. "I feel so lucky that I get to spend this much time with him. Some grandmothers only get holidays and birthdays." "Well, hopefully your house will be done soon," Tom said, "so you can get back to your own routine." Something dark flickered across Diane's face before she recovered. "Yes, hopefully." But she said it like she was hoping for the opposite. That night, I lay in bed, watching the clock. 10 p.m., 11, midnight. At 12:47 a.m., I heard it. The softest creak of a floorboard in the hallway. My eyes flew open. Beside me, Tom slept soundly, oblivious. Another creak. Closer. I held my breath, listening. The sound stopped outside Oliver's door. Then, the quiet click of a door opening. I waited, counting to 30 in my head, then slipped out of bed as silently as I could. My heart hammered against my ribs as I moved toward the hallway. Diane's bedroom door was open. Her bed was empty. I crept down the hall toward Oliver's nursery, my bare feet silent on the floor. The door was ajar, a sliver of blue nightlight spilling into the hallway. I peered through the crack, and there she was. Diane stood beside Oliver's crib, her hand on the baby monitor mounted to the wall. As I watched, she reached up and switched it off. Then she reached down into the crib and gently, carefully, lifted my sleeping son into her arms. I watched, frozen, as she carried him to the rocking chair and sat down, cradling him against her chest. She began to rock, slowly, methodically, and then she started to whisper. I couldn't hear the words from where I stood, but I could see her lips moving, see the way she gazed down at Oliver with an expression that made my stomach turn. It wasn't love. It was possession. I stepped back from the door, my hand over my mouth to stifle the sound threatening to escape. I'd been right. All along, I'd been right. And now I had to figure out what to do about it. I didn't sleep for the rest of that night. I lay in bed, rigid, staring at the ceiling while my mind raced through everything I'd just witnessed. Diane had taken my son from his crib. She'd turned off the monitor deliberately. She'd held him in that rocking chair like he was hers. How many times had she done this? Every night since she'd arrived? Was this why Oliver seemed so tired? Why his sleep schedule had been disrupted? Why small things in his room were always different? She was stealing him. Not physically. She always put him back before morning. But emotionally, she was creating a bond with him in those dark, secret hours, making herself the person who soothed him, who held him, who whispered to him. And I had no proof. Tom would never believe me based on what I'd seen tonight. He'd say I dreamed it, that I was exhausted and paranoid, that his mother would never do something like that. I needed evidence. Real, undeniable evidence. The next morning, I acted normal. I fed Oliver, made breakfast, smiled at Diane when she emerged from her room looking well-rested and content. "Did Oliver sleep well?" she asked, pouring herself coffee. "Like an angel." I lied. "Wonderful." She smiled at me, and I saw something in that smile now. Triumph, maybe, or satisfaction. He's settling into such a good routine.
Because you're conditioning him, I thought. Because you're making yourself necessary. But I just nodded and took another bite of toast. Tom kissed us both goodbye and left for work, completely oblivious to the war being waged in his own home. As soon as his car pulled out of the driveway, I put my plan into motion. I drove to the electronics store, with Oliver strapped in his car seat, Diane staying behind to tidy up. I bought a second baby monitor, a smaller, more discreet model with a hidden camera, the kind advertised for checking on nannies. The irony wasn't lost on me. Back home, I set up the new monitor while Oliver napped and Diane was in the shower. I positioned it on a high shelf, partially hidden behind a stuffed giraffe, angled perfectly to capture both the crib and the rocking chair. The feed went directly to an app on my phone. No obvious screen for Diane to turn off, no plug she could conveniently bump loose. I tested it 3 times to make sure it was working, then deleted the app icon from my home screen and buried it in a folder where no one would think to look. That night, I went through our normal routine: dinner, bath time, bedtime. Diane was especially attentive, offering to read Oliver his story, to sing him his lullaby. "I've got it," I said firmly. She held up her hands with that infuriating apologetic smile. "Of course, I just thought you might want a break." "I don't." I put Oliver down myself, checking the old monitor one last time before leaving his room. I left the door slightly ajar, the same way I always did, the same way Diane would expect. Then I went to bed, phone hidden under my pillow, and waited.
Tom fell asleep around 11. I lay beside him, every nerve in my body screaming with tension, my phone clutched in my hand beneath the covers. At 11:43, my phone vibrated. I pulled it out carefully, shielding the light with my hand, and opened the monitoring app. The feed was clear, showing Oliver's nursery in night vision. He slept peacefully in his crib, his tiny chest rising and falling. Then, at 12:31 a.m., the door opened wider. I watched on the tiny screen as Diane entered the room, moving with the practiced silence of someone who'd done this many times before. She went directly to the main monitor and switched it off. Then she approached the crib. My heart pounded so hard I thought it might wake Tom. I held the phone closer, my hand trembling. Diane reached down and gently lifted Oliver from his crib. He stirred slightly but didn't wake. He was used to this now, I realized with a sick feeling. Used to being picked up in the middle of the night by his grandmother. She carried him to the rocking chair and sat down, arranging him in her arms with practiced ease. She began to rock, slow and steady, and I cranked up the volume on my phone, holding it close to my ear. And then I heard her voice, soft and crooning. "There's my boy, my sweet, perfect boy. You love Grandma best, don't you? Yes, you do. You sleep best with Grandma. You smile biggest for Grandma." My stomach turned. "Your mommy tries so hard, but she doesn't understand you like I do. She gets so anxious, so tense. But with Grandma, you're calm. With Grandma, you're happy." I bit my lip to keep from making a sound. "I wish I could keep you forever. Just you and me. We don't really need anyone else, do we? Mommy and Daddy can visit, but you'd be happiest with Grandma." She continued rocking, continued whispering, her words growing more disturbing with each passing minute. "When I go back to my house, I'm going to miss you so much. But maybe I don't have to go back. Maybe I can stay here. Maybe if they see how much you need me, how much better you are with me, they'll let me stay forever." I watched her on that screen, watched her hold my son like he was a possession, like he was something she could claim as her own. And I realized with horrifying clarity, this wasn't just about bonding with her grandson. This was about replacing me. She rocked with him for nearly 2 hours. I recorded every second of it, my anger building with each whispered word, each possessive touch. Finally, around 2:30 a.m., she stood and carried him back to his crib. She laid him down carefully, rearranging his blanket, moving his elephant. Then she turned off the nightlight for just a moment, probably so her eyes would adjust, before turning it back on and slipping out of the room. I listened as her footsteps retreated down the hall, as her bedroom door clicked shut. Only then did I let myself breathe. I had it. All of it. Video evidence that no one could deny. Tomorrow, I would show Tom, and this would end. I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard Diane's voice. "You love Grandma best, don't you?" When morning came, I was exhausted but resolute. I waited until Tom was awake and having coffee, until Diane was in the shower, and then I pulled him aside into our bedroom. "I need to show you something," I said, keeping my voice low. He looked at me with concern. "What's wrong?" I pulled out my phone and opened the recording from last night. "Just watch." I saw the exact moment it registered, his eyes widening, his jaw clenching as he watched his mother enter Oliver's room, turn off the monitor, lift him from his crib. I let it play until Diane's whispered words became audible. Tom's face went pale. "What the hell is this?" he breathed. "This is what's been happening every night since your mother moved in," I said quietly. "She's been taking Oliver out of his crib, holding him for hours, turning off the monitor so we wouldn't know." Tom stood abruptly, running his hands through his hair. "This can't be real. Why would she—" "Listen to what she's saying," I told him. He listened, and I watched his expression shift from disbelief to horror to something like grief. When the video ended, he was silent for a long moment. "How long have you known?" he asked finally. "I suspected for weeks. I saw it happen 2 nights ago, but I needed proof before I told you." He nodded slowly, his face ashen. "We need to talk to her." "Now?" "Now." We heard the shower turn off down the hall. Tom straightened his shoulders, steeling himself for what was coming. "Let me do the talking." Diane emerged from her room 20 minutes later, dressed and smiling, completely unaware of what was about to happen. "Good morning," she said brightly. "Should I start breakfast?" "Mom, we need to talk," Tom said, his voice tight. She looked between us, her smile faltering. "What's wrong?" "Sit down," Tom said, gesturing to the couch. She sat, her expression shifting to concern. "Tom, you're scaring me. What happened?" Tom pulled out my phone and opened the recording from last night. Showing her the paused video, her face visible as she lifted Oliver from his crib. The color drained from Diane's face. "What is that?" "You know what it is," Tom said quietly. "I need you to explain why you've been taking Oliver out of his crib every night." I was spying on you." "You were sneaking into my son's room in the middle of the night. What did you expect?" "I was helping," Diane's voice rose defensively. "He was crying and I was soothing him. That's what grandmothers do." "He wasn't crying, not in any of these videos. You were taking him out when he was sleeping peacefully." "He sleeps better when I hold him." "And turning off the monitor," I interjected. "How does that help him sleep better?" Diane's mouth opened and closed, searching for an explanation. I didn't want to wake you. You both need your rest." "So you deliberately hid what you were doing from us?" "No, She shook her head frantically. "You're twisting this. I love Oliver. I was just spending time with him. There's nothing wrong with that." Tom pressed play on the video. Diane's whispered words filled the room. "You love Grandma best, don't you? Your mommy tries so hard, but she doesn't understand you like I do." Diane's face crumpled. I didn't." "What did you mean? When you said I don't understand him, that he'd be happiest with just you?" "I was just talking, just saying things. It doesn't mean anything."
It means everything, Tom said, his voice hard. Mom, you've been undermining Sarah since you got here. The comments, the suggestions, the way you take over every time she tries to care for her own son. I was trying to help. You were trying to replace her, I said quietly. The words hung in the air like an accusation. Diane's eyes filled with tears. No, that's not true. I would never. Then why haven't you gone home? Tom asked. Your renovation has been done for 3 weeks, hasn't it? Diane froze. What? I called the contractor yesterday. The work was finished on October 15th, 3 weeks ago. He said you told him not to tell me, that you wanted to surprise me with the finished house. Diane's face went white. You lied about the delays, Tom continued, his voice breaking. You invented problems so you could stay here longer, so you could keep taking Oliver at night, so you could keep... He stopped, shaking his head. What were you thinking? Diane's voice was barely a whisper. I just wanted more time with him. Is that so wrong? He's my grandson, my only grandson. And you live so far away, and I thought, if I could just stay a little longer. You've been here for 5 weeks. 5 weeks of lying to us. 5 weeks of sneaking into our son's room. 5 weeks of trying to make him prefer you over his own mother. That's not what I was doing. That's exactly what you were doing. Diane buried her face in her hands and started to cry. Deep, wrenching sobs that shook her whole body. And despite everything, despite the anger and betrayal, I felt a flicker of pity. Because I understood now. This wasn't about malice. This wasn't even about control. Not really. This was about a woman so terrified of being alone, so desperate to be needed, that she'd convinced herself taking someone else's child in the night was an act of love. But understanding didn't mean forgiving, and it definitely didn't mean allowing it to continue. Diane cried for a long time while Tom and I sat in silence, waiting. Finally, she looked up, her face blotchy and tear-stained. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I never meant to hurt anyone. But you did hurt us, Tom said quietly. You hurt Sarah. You disrupted Oliver's sleep, and you betrayed our trust. I know. Her voice was small. I know, and I'm ashamed. When I'm with him, I feel like myself again. Like I matter. Like I'm not just alone. There it was, the truth beneath all the manipulation and lies. She wasn't trying to steal Oliver because she was cruel. She was trying to steal him because she was empty. Mom, Tom said gently, when did you start feeling like this? Diane shook her head. I don't know. After your father died, maybe. Everything felt so quiet, so meaningless. And then Oliver was born, and suddenly I had a purpose again, someone who needed me. But he doesn't need you like this, I said, keeping my voice soft but firm. He has parents, he has a home, and he needs to bond with us, not with someone who's going to disappear when she goes back to her own house. I wasn't going to disappear, Diane said desperately. I was going to visit all the time. I was going to be part of his life. I couldn't stand the thought of going back to that empty house, of not seeing him every day, of not being essential, Tom offered. She nodded miserably. But that's not sustainable, Mom. You can't build your entire life around our child. It's not healthy for any of us. I know, she whispered. I know, and I'm ashamed. When I'm with him, I feel like myself again. Like I matter, like I'm not just alone. There it was, the truth, beneath all the manipulation and lies. She wasn't trying to steal Oliver because she was cruel. She was trying to steal him because she was empty. "Mom," Tom said gently, "when did you start feeling like this?" Diane shook her head. "I don't know. After your father died, maybe? Everything felt so quiet, so meaningless. And then Oliver was born, and suddenly I had a purpose again, someone who needed me." "But he doesn't need you like this," I said, keeping my voice soft but firm. "He has parents, he has a home, and he needs to bond with us, not with someone who's going to disappear when she goes back to her own house." "I wasn't going to disappear," Diane said desperately. "I was going to visit all the time. I was going to be part of his life. I couldn't stand the thought of going back to that empty house, of not seeing him every day, of not being essential," Tom offered. She nodded miserably. "But that's not sustainable, Mom. You can't build your entire life around our child. It's not healthy for any of us." "I know," she whispered. "I know. And I didn't know how to stop. Every time I thought about leaving, I'd panic. And then I'd think, just one more week, just a little more time. And before I knew it, you'd been here for 5 weeks and we were starting to resent you," Tom finished. Diane flinched at the word resent, but she didn't deny it. "What about the contractor? Why did you tell him not to tell Tom the work was finished?" She looked down at her hands. "Because I knew if you found out, you'd make me leave. And I wasn't ready. I kept thinking if I could just prove how helpful I was, how much better things were with me here, you'd ask me to stay permanently." "Mom," Tom said gently, "we would never ask you to move in permanently. This is our home, our family. You're welcome to visit, but you can't live here." "I know that now," she said quietly. "But at the time, I couldn't see past my own need, my own loneliness." She looked at me then, her eyes red and pleading. "I never meant to replace you. I know you're his mother. I know you love him. I got lost in my own fear. And I'm so, so sorry." I wanted to stay angry. Part of me wanted to yell at her to make her understand the depth of the violation she had committed. But another part of me, the part that had spent 5 weeks watching her desperate attempts to be needed, just felt sad. "You need help, Diane," I said gently. "Professional help. This isn't about being a grandmother. This is about something deeper." She nodded, tears streaming down her face. "I know. I think I've known for a while. I just didn't want to admit it." Tom reached over and took his mother's hand. "We want you in Oliver's life, but not like this. Not with lies and manipulation and midnight visits. You need to go home and you need to talk to someone." "A therapist?" Diane asked, her voice small. "Yes." She was quiet for a long moment, then nodded. "Okay, I'll go and I'll get help." "Thank you," Tom said. She looked at me then, her expression raw and pleading. "Can you ever forgive me?" I thought about it, really thought about it. "I don't know," I said honestly. "Right now, I'm too angry and hurt to know what forgiveness looks like. But maybe someday, if you do the work, if you respect our boundaries, maybe." She nodded, accepting the ambiguity of my answer. "I'll pack my things," she said quietly, standing on shaky legs. "I'll be gone by this afternoon." Tom stood too. "I'll help you." As they walked down the hall together, I heard Diane say, "I really do love him, you know. I love him so much." And Tom's response, "I know, Mom, but love without boundaries isn't love. It's possession, and it destroys the thing you're trying to hold on to." I sat alone in the living room, those words echoing in my mind. Love without boundaries isn't love, it's possession. How many relationships, I wondered, had been ruined by that simple truth? Diane left that afternoon with 3 suitcases and a face full of shame. Tom walked her to her car while I stayed inside with Oliver, who was blissfully unaware of the upheaval his presence had caused. I watched from the window as Tom hugged his mother goodbye as she got into her car with slumped shoulders and drove away. When Tom came back inside, he looked exhausted. "You okay?" I asked. He shook his head. "Not really, but I will be." We sat together on the couch, Oliver playing on his mat between us, and for the first time in weeks, the house felt like ours again. Over the next few days, details emerged that painted an even clearer picture of Diane's deception. Tom had called the contractor again, this time asking more pointed questions. The renovation had indeed been finished 3 weeks earlier. Beautifully, actually, ahead of schedule. But Diane had called repeatedly with new requests. Could they repaint this room? Could they redo the tile? Could they add additional lighting? She kept finding reasons to extend the timeline, the contractor had told Tom, and she was very specific about not mentioning to you that the original work was done. She said it was supposed to be a surprise. When Tom asked his mother directly in a phone call 2 days later, she finally broke down and told the whole truth. The house wasn't being renovated when she'd first asked to stay with us. That had been a lie from the beginning. "I felt like I was disappearing," she'd said through tears. "Ever since your father died, every day has felt so empty, so meaningless. And then you told me you were having a baby, and I thought, this is it. This is my second chance to matter again, to be needed again." She'd planned to stay just a few days, initially, just to meet Oliver and help out. But once she was there, when she'd held him and felt that rush of purpose, she couldn't leave. So she'd invented the renovation story. And when Tom had started asking when it would be finished, she'd called contractors, gotten quotes, actually had work done on her house, work she didn't need, just to maintain the lie. Every time I thought about going back to that empty house, I'd panic. And then I'd think about Oliver, about holding him, about being the one to soothe him. And I'd tell myself, just one more week, just a little longer. The nighttime visits had started innocently enough. Oliver had woken up crying one night, and she'd gone to check on him before we could. She'd held him, rocked him, and he'd fallen back asleep in her arms. And she'd felt needed. So she'd done it again the next night, and the next. Eventually, she stopped waiting for him to cry. She'd just take him, hold him, whisper to him in the darkness. It was the only time I felt like myself, the only time the loneliness went away. She'd said. Tom had asked her why she'd turned off the monitor. "Because I knew you'd stop me if you found out," she'd said simply. And I couldn't bear the thought of stopping. It was heartbreaking in a way. This woman, so consumed by grief and loneliness, had convinced herself that stealing moments with her grandson in the middle of the night was the only thing keeping her alive. But it was also terrifying, because she had prioritized her own needs over our family's well-being. She'd lied, manipulated, and crossed boundaries that should never have been crossed. And she'd done it all while believing she was motivated by love. "I'm so angry at her," Tom had said after that phone call. "But I'm also just sad. She's my mom. I don't want her to be like this." She needs help. Real help. Not just an apology. Tom had nodded. I told her she can't see Oliver again until she's been in therapy for at least 3 months. And even then, visits will be supervised. Here, during the day. No more overnight stays. Ever. How did she react? She agreed. I think she knows she doesn't have a choice. 3 days after Diane left, I called her. She answered on the second ring, her voice tentative. "Hello? It's Sarah." Silence. Then, "Hi. I wanted to let you know that Oliver is sleeping through the night now. Every night. Since you left." I heard her inhale sharply. That's good. He's happier during the day too, less fussy, more like himself. Sarah, I'm not telling you this to hurt you, I said, cutting her off. I'm telling you because I need you to understand what your actions did. You thought you were helping him. You thought you were making him feel loved. But what you were actually doing was disrupting his routine, confusing his attachment, and making him more dependent on you than on his parents. I know, she whispered. I know, and I'm so sorry. Have you found a therapist? Yes. My first appointment is next week. Good, I said. Tom told you the conditions for seeing Oliver again. He did. And you understand why they're necessary. I do. Her voice broke. I understand, and I'll do whatever it takes to earn back your trust. I was quiet for a moment, choosing my words carefully. I don't know if you can earn it back, Diane. Trust isn't something you rebuild with time served. It's something you rebuild with changed behavior, with respect, with boundaries. I know. I hope you do. Because the next time you see Oliver, if there is a next time, I need to know that you see him as my son. Not yours, not a replacement for your loneliness, not a purpose to fill your empty days. My son. He is your son, Diane said. And for the first time, she sounded like she meant it. I know that. I've always known that. I lost sight of it. Why? Why did you lose sight of something so fundamental? She was quiet for a long time. Then, because admitting he was yours meant admitting I had no real claim to him. And if I had no claim, then I had no reason to be there. And if I had no reason to be there, then I had to face the fact that I'm alone. And I wasn't ready to face that. But you're facing it now. I'm trying to. It's hard, harder than I thought it would be. But I'm trying. That's all anyone can ask, I said. We said goodbye shortly after that, and I hung up feeling lighter somehow. Not forgiven. I wasn't ready for that yet, but heard, understood. And that was enough for now. 3 months passed before we let Diane see Oliver again. True to her word, she'd started therapy immediately and had been going twice a week. Tom spoke with her therapist, with Diane's permission, to confirm she was doing the work, addressing the underlying issues, building healthier coping mechanisms. She's making progress, the therapist had told him. She's starting to understand the difference between connection and control. So we agreed to a visit. 1 hour, in our home, with both Tom and me present. Diana arrived at exactly 2 p.m. on a Saturday, holding a small wrapped gift and looking nervous. "Hi," she said softly when I opened the door. "Hi," I replied. Oliver was in his high chair, having a snack. He looked up when Diane entered and smiled. A bright, innocent smile that clearly meant he remembered her. Diane's eyes filled with tears. "Hi, sweetheart." She didn't rush toward him. She didn't try to pick him up. She just stood there, letting him see her, letting him decide. After a moment, Oliver reached out his chubby hand toward her. Diane looked at me silently, asking permission. I nodded. She approached slowly and took his hand, bending down so she was at his level. "I missed you so much," she said quietly. Oliver babbled something incomprehensible and offered her a soggy piece of banana. Diane laughed, a real, genuine laugh, and pretended to eat it. "Delicious! Thank you!" We sat in the living room for the next hour, all of us together. Diane played with Oliver on the floor, letting him lead, following his cues. She didn't try to hold him constantly or monopolize his attention. She just existed with him. And when the hour was up, she stood without argument. "Thank you," she said to both of us, "for giving me another chance. This is the beginning, not the end. We need to see consistent change. I know, and you will, I promise." She hugged Tom goodbye, then turned to me. "May I?" I nodded, and she hugged me too, briefly, respectfully. "I'm working on being better. Not for you, not even for Oliver. For me. Because I want to be the kind of grandmother he deserves." "I hope you get there," I said, honestly. After she left, Tom and I sat in silence for a while, Oliver playing contentedly between us. "Do you think she can change?" Tom asked eventually. I thought about it. I think people can change if they want to badly enough. And I think losing access to Oliver scared her enough to want to. What if she relapses? Then we enforce boundaries again. But we give her the chance to prove herself. That's all we can do. Tom nodded, pulling me close. "Thank you." "For what?" "For seeing this for what it was. For not letting it destroy our family." I rested my head on his shoulder, watching Oliver stack blocks with intense concentration. Some people call possessiveness love. They convince themselves that needing someone desperately is the same as loving them. But real love has boundaries. Real love respects autonomy. Real love doesn't steal moments in the dark because it's afraid of being forgotten in the light. You think my mom understands that now? I think she's starting to. And that's enough. Over the following months, Diane's visits became regular but structured. Every other Saturday, 2 hours, always during the day. She called before coming. She brought small, thoughtful gifts instead of extravagant ones. She asked permission before picking Oliver up. And slowly, gradually, I started to relax around her. She still said things that rubbed me the wrong way sometimes. She still had opinions about how I did things. But now, when I gently corrected her or established a boundary, she listened. "You're right. I'm sorry. That wasn't my place." One afternoon, about 6 months after the confrontation, Diane and I were alone in the kitchen while Tom gave Oliver a bath. "Can I ask you something?" Diane said suddenly. "Sure. Do you think you'll ever forgive me? Really forgive me?" I thought about it while I washed dishes, considering my answer carefully. "I think I already have. Not because you've earned it, but because holding on to anger was hurting me more than it was hurting you." Diane nodded slowly. "That's generous." "It's survival," I corrected. "Forgiveness isn't about letting you off the hook. It's about letting myself move forward without carrying the weight of what happened." "I understand. But forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. I'll always remember what happened, and I'll always protect my son first, even from you, if necessary." "As you should. As any good mother would." She looked at me then, really looked at me, and I saw something I'd never seen before. Respect. "You're a good mother," she said. "I should have told you that from the beginning, instead of trying to make you doubt yourself." "Thank you," I said, surprised by how much those words meant. We finished the dishes in comfortable silence, and for the first time since Diane had entered our lives, I felt like maybe, just maybe, we could coexist peacefully. Not as mother and daughter, not as friends, exactly, but as two women who both loved the same child and were learning to share him in healthy ways.
Oliver is 2 years old now. He toddles around the house with the fearless confidence of a child who knows he's loved. He calls me Mama and Tom Dada and Diane Gamma. Diane visits twice a month now, sometimes more during holidays. She brings books instead of toys,
asks about Oliver's routines instead of trying to create new ones, and leaves when we ask her to without argument or guilt. She's still in therapy. She says she'll probably always be in therapy, working through the layers of grief and loneliness that led her to cross those boundaries in the first place. I'm learning that being alone doesn't mean being worthless, she told me recently, and that loving someone doesn't give me the right to control them. I asked her what made the difference, what finally clicked. Almost losing him, she said simply. Almost losing Oliver because I couldn't control my fear. That woke me up. I think about that often, how close we came to severing this relationship entirely, how easily Diane's desperation could have turned into something even darker if we hadn't caught it when we did. But we did catch it. We set boundaries, we enforced consequences, we gave her a chance to change. And she took it. Not everyone does. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I hadn't trusted my instincts that night, if I hadn't set up that hidden camera, if I'd convinced myself I was being paranoid and let it continue. Would Diane have eventually escalated? Would Oliver have grown up confused about who his primary caregivers were? Would my marriage have survived the constant undermining? I'll never know. And I'm grateful for that. What I do know is this. Protecting your child sometimes means protecting them from people who claim to love them. It means recognizing that love without boundaries is possession, that need without respect is control. And it means being willing to stand firm, even when standing firm feels cruel, especially then. Because children deserve to grow up knowing they belong to themselves first, that they are not responsible for filling the empty spaces in someone else's heart, that love, real love, gives them room to breathe. Tom and I talk about all of this sometimes, late at night after Oliver is asleep, about how complicated family can be, about how the people who hurt us most are often the ones who think they're helping. Do you think my mom will ever fully heal? He asked me recently. I don't know, I said honestly, but I think she's trying, and that has to count for something. He nodded, then pulled me close. Thank you for fighting for our family, even when it meant fighting my mother. I'd do it again. Every time. Because that's what mothers do. We fight for our children. We establish boundaries. We protect their sleep, their peace, their right to grow up without being burdened by someone else's emotional needs, even when that someone is family. Especially then. Diane sends me a text sometimes now, usually on Sunday evenings. Thank you for not giving up on me. I always respond the same way. Thank you for doing the work. And I mean it, because changing is hard. Facing your demons is hard. Admitting you are wrong and committing to being better is one of the hardest things a person can do. But it's also the only thing that matters. Not the mistake, not the violation, not even the forgiveness. The work. A daily choice to be better than you were yesterday. That's what transforms relationships. That's what rebuilds trust. That's what turns possessive love into the real thing. And watching Diane make that choice, day after day, has taught me something important. People can change. Not everyone will, but the ones who do, the ones who face their fear and their pain and their emptiness and choose growth anyway, those people deserve our grace. Not our blind trust, not our unlimited access to our children, but our grace. The space to prove they've changed, the opportunity to rebuild, the hope that tomorrow can be different than yesterday. Oliver will grow up knowing his grandmother. He'll remember her visits, her stories, her love, but he'll never remember the nights she took him from his crib. He'll never carry the weight of her loneliness. And that's the greatest gift we could give him. The freedom to love her without being responsible for healing her.